The Try That in a Small Town podcast is powered by eSpaces, redefining co-working, exceptional office space for every business. At eSpaces, we offer more than just office space. We provide premium private offices designed for focus and growth. Located in the heart of Music Row, our fully furnished offices, private suites, meeting rooms, and podcast studio give you the perfect space to work, create, and connect. Ready to elevate your business? Book a tour today at espaces.com.
Same thing happened with Metallica.
That's what I was going to ask.
Bro, and everybody says Hulk lied. Said he tried out for the Stones and Metallica. He's a liar. Well, with Metallica, it was the same thing. I saw they needed a bass player. I put a tape together and sent it to him. Never heard a word. You know?
They didn't even respond at all?
No, nothing. I had seen Rocky 1, and he was like 700 feet tall in the public's eye. And I was with my girlfriend at the time and said, man, if I could just be in one of those movies, just sweeping the floor as a janitor, I'd love to be in the movie, you know? So they told me no music. So I went to the sound guy. I said, the hell with this. I had a Tiger cranking. I gave him $500. When that music started, that dun, 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 the roof of the place blew off. And, you know, then I told Vince, I said, man, I've been selling merchandise, T-shirts and headbands and hats and koozies and wristbands and making a ton of money doing it because nobody else is. And man, Vince picked up on it real quick.
The Try That in a Small Town podcast begins now.
All right, welcome back to the Patriot Mobile Studios. This is the Try That in a Small Town podcast. I got Tully right here. I got Kayla right there. I got Thrash over there.
Yes.
Tonight, dudes, this is going to be something. We got one of the most iconic figures in wrestling history here tonight.
How did we get him on here?
I don't know. He's a WWE Hall of Famer, a global superstar. Welcome, Hulk Hogan.
I don't know how iconic it's going to be. It's going to be crazy. I can tell you that much.
Oh my God! Dang, a flex right off the bat too.
Amazing.
You guys
Thank you so much.
When you're 71, brother, you got to throw it up there whenever you can.
Oh wow!
Oh, you are not 71.
You don't. 72 in August.
God, you look amazing.
Well, I've got a lot of mileage on me, bro.
Hey, for some reason, you know, when I was introducing you, we talk a lot about nicknames on this podcast. I have no idea why. And I think, you know, the world knows you as Hulk Hogan. Friends and family know you as Terry Bollea. And I think we want to get to maybe why and when and where the name Hulk Hogan came up with. But I really want to know, did you fight under any other names before that? Did you have any names that didn't stick?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, when I first started, I played music for 10 years.
Yeah.
And when I got done doing the circuits, this 6 days a week, you know, from 9 to 2 in the morning, the 45-minute sets with a 15-minute breaks. When I got done doing the same clubs over and over and over, the Stone Pony and the, you know, all the ones through Atlanta and all those clubs and back through Florida, you know, we were making a little bit of money, but nothing really big. We had a chance to go on the road and open for some national acts, and the lead singer got his girlfriend pregnant. The other guy, the keyboard player, got his wife pregnant, and they didn't want to go. So
country music.
So I'd been training with weights a little bit, and I just got pissed, and I just put my bass down. I said, guys, I'm quitting, and I'm going to be the greatest professional wrestler ever. And all the guys in the band just fell on the ground laughing, right? Because I was just a big fan. But when I started, I already had a good look because I'd been putting the weights, those plastic weights on the back of the big U-Haul that we bought, you know. So the first thing would come off before the Ampeg and the acoustics and all the Marshall equipment would be all my weights, you know. And so I was lifting in the hotel rooms and stuff. So when I first started, it was a rough start. But when I finally had a match, they put a mask on me. They called me the Super Destroyer because they were gonna beat me all over. That's called a jobber, where they give you like $25 to lose every night. And they figured until I learned the craft, they wanted to protect my face so people wouldn't recognize me as the guy that lost every night. And so then I went on to be Terry Boulder after I quit and went back and working on the docks for a while. I went on to be Terry Boulder, and then quit again. Went back up to Atlanta, and this promoter who was a little light in his loafers, he named me Sterling Golden, you know. And so I was Sterling Golden for a while. Then I quit again. Went back and worked on the docks. And I was wrestling 13 times a week for like $150, you know. And I was making a lot more than that playing music, especially unloading ships as a longshoreman in Tampa. I made a ton of money back then. So I kept quitting to go back to work to make money. And then finally, when I got a call from New York, all the wrestlers here said, that's the big man's territory. And I'd been training enough where I was pretty darn big at the time. And I went up there, and Vince McMahon Sr. had all these wrestlers like Pedro Morales for the Puerto Rican Americans, Chiefs Jay Strongbow for the Native Indian Americans, Bruno Sammartino for the Italian Americans. And so he wanted me to be Hulk Hogan for the Irish Americans. So that's where the name came from. Vince Sr. gave me that name.
Wow. Sterling Golden sounds like an adult film star. Or
Yeah.
There's so much that I want to talk. I want to get to. There's so much. First of all, though, you came out to our show a couple years ago in Tampa at the amphitheater there, and we knew you were coming. Couldn't wait for you to walk in. You know, myself being born in '75, I grew up right in the golden era of like wrestling, WWF. It was huge. But we started talking about bass, and I don't think a lot of people realize that you played bass. You were played in bands. I don't know if everyone knows that, which that was fun sitting back there talking about bass guitars and how you rip the frets out of your bass and turn it into a fretless, you know, which was great. Like, I don't think anyone realizes your background in music.
Yeah, it wasn't a hobby. It was like you professionally wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
Brother, I was just like you guys. I was doing anything to avoid a real job. Anything to avoid a real job. But I'd taken, my mom played keyboards at the house all the time. She had a little organ and a piano. And I took music lessons on an old Guild guitar that looked like a 335 Gibson, that Guild, you know. And so I played lead guitar in a couple bands until I got in a really good band that brought in this lead guitar player from Todd Rundgren's band. And so I moved over to bass, and I got pretty good at that, but I always played it fretless. And then, you know, I didn't mess with a bass with frets until my daughter started playing music, but I never made any money until I got into wrestling with the music. And when I was living up in Connecticut, I had Cyndi Lauper and Meatloaf and Cyndi Lauper's boyfriend Dave Wolf on the same area that I was in, and I talked them into doing some stuff with us. So me and Rick Derringer recut Land of 1,000 Dances and Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo and a bunch of stuff, and brought Simon Cowell in to produce it. And he produced the first album that went platinum. And then we brought him in for the Pile Driver album, the second album that went double platinum. So that's when it's the only time I really made any money. But, you know, there's just a whole bunch of music in between that, going over to the UK and doing some stuff for Simon Cowell. They had a guy there that was kind of like their Elvis, a guy named Gary Glitter. And he was this transvestite guy that was all dressed up, and he had a song called Leader of the Gang. I could recut Leader of the Gang with a band called Green Jelly over there. And that's how I got to know Simon. Then we had another kid die at ringside when I was wrestling in the UK. And me and Jimmy Hart, who had a hit record out of Sun Studios, Keep On Dancing. I don't know if you guys remember Jimmy.
Oh, yeah.
But Jimmy had a hit song, Keep On Dancing. Then he recut Cinnamon Girl, and it went way up the charts. But Simon produced like 12 songs that Jimmy Hart and I sat up and wrote with an auto harp all night. And that did really well for the little album over there on Billboard, and we gave all that money to the family. But yeah, and then that's what got me hooked up with Simon. Then we brought him over 2 times for the wrestling album, and he never left, you know, and he stayed here. So there was a whole history of music, but it was real spotty. I never broke through with it, you know.
And one thing I thought was really cool, and listened to a couple other interviews that you've had, is that you were playing your shows and your rock shows and everything, and you were seeing wrestlers come to those shows, and you were looking out there. At the time, you're thinking, those guys are badasses. They've got cauliflower ear, they got teeth missing and stuff like that. And you're like, I want to go wrestle those guys. Yeah, which was amazing. Well, you know?
No, I was scared to death of them, because when I finally came back here to Florida and settled in, we had a bunch of really good high school bands. So I would grab the best lead guitar player out of one band. I grabbed a lead singer out of one band, a good drummer, a good keyboard player, and formed this band called Ruckus. And we started playing. If we'd moved from St. Pete to Tampa Clearwater, we had a following that would follow us around. And like when we would play, we had so much equipment. It's like donk, donk, donk. The whole room would move, when we'd play. And it was a crazy feel. We played like rock funk stuff. And so the wrestlers started coming in. Oh my God, I was scared to death of them, because they were all 300 pounds and they looked all beat up and everything. And back in the late 70s, it was a different business. I mean, you didn't go to, the performance center and learn how to wrestle with a helmet on, If you wanted to get wrestling, you had to take that 340-pound man's livelihood and the food out of his family's mouth to get in the business. There were no openings for wrestlers. So it was a tough sell, but I started running my mouth telling people I wanted to wrestle, which was the worst thing I could do in such a small town like this. And so the first day I went down there, a guy named Matt Suda broke my leg and told me never to come back again. So that was the beginning. But yeah, but it was weird playing music and having all the wrestlers coming. I was scared to death of them.
Well, he set that up. I mean, that's the epitome of try that in a small town right there.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah. Well, it was different back then, bro. You didn't get sued. You could punch somebody in the face and not get sued back then.
Well, you're talking about the grind back then. It's funny because people think, whether it's Jason Aldean or Hulk Hogan, they just see the superstar. Man, people don't understand the grind and the journey it takes. Like you're saying, you're making $100 a week just to get your butt kicked by these guys. At what point did you start to think, hey, I can actually make a living doing this? This is something that can happen for me.
Well, that was the mindset going into this thing, was just to make a living, like I did with music. But, it was kind of like the guys in the music business partied, but when I got in the wrestling business, it was a whole nother level, brother. So I said, this is perfect for me, but it was kind of like, I just wanted to make a living, but the problem was I kept quitting. I probably quit 3 or 4 times because I would go out there and wouldn't make much money. And, I slept in my van for a year on Pensacola Beach with the Wild Samoans sleeping in their van. We weren't making any money. And, I kept coming back. So when I was playing music in between bands, I got a union laborer's card. So I'd go to the union hall and they'd send me out on a different job. And every time I'd go out on a job for 3 or 4 days, like a government shutdown of a phosphate plant, or go to the university mall to put up can lighting, or work with a steel worker or brick mason, I'd make good money, So I kept quitting to come back to try to get back on my feet and save some money. And probably I really didn't think I was going to make it until I finally got that call to go to New York from Vince McMahon Sr. And that was 1978. I got that call to go up there. And Vince McMahon looked at me, and I was way over 300 pounds, and I was crazy as a goat. And actually thought I could beat Andre the Giant up, which I got my ass handed to me. And he beat on me for 8 years before he started liking me. But then, then once I got up in that New York circuit, the Boston Gardens, the Philadelphia Spectrum, Madison Square Garden, I started playing those big venues, then, and they naturally pushed me up to the top of the card because of how I looked. Then I knew I could make it in the business, but I kept quitting. And if I hadn't get that call from New York, I probably wouldn't have went back.
I'll tell you what, I remember going to the movies, 82, and seeing Rocky 3. And there you were, Thunderlips. And what I got to tell you, and I'm sure you've heard this before many times, but that you in that movie, that was a moment. That was a movie. It still is like a moment. And Stallone still posts pictures all the time from that movie and you and him in the ring. And that was so cool. I thought that was, at that point, I was like, who is that? That had still, I mean, what an amazing moment though, right? Fun was had, I'm sure.
And you made bank off that. You made bank off that, right?
Yeah, right.
I couldn't believe how little
Here's where we have
made.
something in common right here.
Wow.
Brother, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer when it comes to negotiating, but at the end of the day, I had seen Rocky 1, and he was like 700 feet tall in the public's eye. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. I said, man, if I could just be in one of those movies, just sweeping the floor as a janitor, I'd love to be in the movie, you know? So fast forward, here comes Rocky 3, and I was actually in Allentown, Pennsylvania, doing television for the WWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, where there were 3 W's. That was before it was the WWF. And I got a piece of paper called Sylvester Stallone, you know, wants to talk about a part in the movie. Yeah, right. Because the wrestlers, you know, always rib each other. You know, they'll put locks on your bag or cut your clothes up or take your car keys and throw them in the toilet or something, you know. So I went to Japan for about 6 or 7 weeks, and I came back. And when I came back, it was back to the Allentown Farm Center at TV again. Now I got a Western Union letter that says Stallone needs to talk to you urgently. So I did call him, and I flew out there, and I got the part in the movie, you know, and he kind of like, we got in the ring a little bit, and he, you know, we moved around. He says, I'm going to try to hit you, see if you can get a hold of me. I said, oh, okay, whatever you say. But, you know, as soon as he stuck his arm out, I snatched his ass and hammered him. And then he says, I want you to hit me as hard as you can. I said, no, bro, you don't want that. You know, well, just give me 50%. Well, you know, so I'll give you a little bit. So I gave him a good shot. And as soon as I hit him, I hit him on the back, and his face went down and hit my cowboy boots. And he popped up. He goes, oh, that's great. I said, oh, Jesus, he's crazy. But yeah, I got the part. And we rolled out of the ring, and he put a camera in my face. He goes, I want you to get mad. And so he basically wanted me to cut a promo. So I was halfway learning how to do that. I really wasn't all the way there. And I did the best I could. He goes, okay, you got the part. And he goes, I'll give you $10,000 to do the movie. And of course, me being the genius that I was, I said, I want 15,000.
That a way to do it. Drive it up. Drive it up.
Yeah. So he paid me 14 grand with no back end, no points, no nothing. But,
boy,
it was worth it, man. You know, I never had an agent. I never had a movie part. I didn't.
How did he find you in the first place? I mean, how did he get the idea to use you in that part?
Well, he had watched Madison Square Garden Network, and at the time I was like 335 pounds, and he'd watched me pick up 3 guys in a bear hug, and I was just ragdolling them, you know. And I was holding 3 guys up, and I threw them all down. And there was a casting director named Rhonda Young. So Stallone says he called Rhonda and goes, who's this guy? So she called her brother, Peter Young, who's been my agent for 40 years, and Mr. T's agent. And Peter Young, who was a wrestling fan at the time and wasn't an agent back then, said, oh, that's Hulk Hogan. I'm going to Boston College. We go see him all the time. So that's how they got a hold of me.
That's amazing. That's
I mean,
amazing.
it worked out though. I mean, that was 82. And then January of 84.
Well, no, we shot the movie, bro. I think mid 80, like mid.
Right.
Yeah,
So, okay, yeah.
But then you got fired. And sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
but didn't you get fired? Didn't Vince Sr. fire you for doing that?
Yeah. I was in Fall River, Mass. I think I was wrestling at the high school of the Armory. I can't remember. And I was supposed to go to LA the next day, and I had told Vince Sr. that I wanted to go do this Rocky movie. And I said, I'll be gone 10 days shooting the part. He goes, no, you're not doing it. So anyway, I call him up and I said, look, I'm leaving tomorrow to go do the Rocky movie. He goes, you're not allowed. You have to go from Fall River, Mass. You got to drive to Charlotte all night because they want you on Charlotte TV at at noon. And I would have barely made it if I drove all night. But I said, I'm sorry, Mr. McMahon, but I'm going to go do this movie. I'll be back in 10 days. He goes, okay, you're fired and you'll never work here again. I went, okay. It was cool with me because I had a really hot-looking girl that lived in Japan at the time. So I just went over and stayed in Japan for a while and kept wrestling the circuit over there, which was really intense back then. And then I sent some of my pictures to this promoter in Minnesota, Vern Gagne, the AWA, and there were 2 places that all the wrestlers wanted to work. That was the Madison Square Garden circuit or Minneapolis, because the trips were short and this guy paid really well. So I sent him my pictures and he said, how quick can you be here? And so as soon as I landed from Japan, I got back to Florida and I drove up to Minnesota and I started there. And I wrestled there for about 3.5 years. And we were just getting ready to come in, and we bought TV time on Channel 9 in New York. We were going to run up and down the whole East Coast when Vince Jr. flew out to Vince McMahon, that you guys know. Vince Jr. flew out to my house in Minnesota, and we cut a deal. He goes, I'm going to build the blueprint, and you're going to build the building, and we're going to take over the whole world. I said, ooh, I like that. So that means you stay in the Eiffel Tower, and I'm the one that gets shot at. He goes, yes. So it all worked out great.
I heard you talking about Madison Square Garden and that circuit, and it reminded me of an interview that I heard with you. You were saying that was the most memorable and the best night of your career when you were against the Iron Sheik up there. But it wasn't necessarily for the match. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's just so many things were going on, which I wasn't aware of. First off, I just left Minnesota, and I just bought a house there from the promoter's daughter, from Vern Gagne's daughter. So he thought I was locked and loaded to stay there. And I just sat out by a swimming pool that weekend before and booked myself in all the main event matches against Nick Bockwinkel, the champion, all these cage matches. So I did something that was totally unethical in the wrestling business. I walked out without a 30-day notice. So, I walked away very unprofessionally. Usually you say 30 days, 30-day notice, and you let everybody in the territory beat you, all the top guys. I locked the door and went away. And I went to Madison Square Garden, and Vern Gagne, the promoter, was really pissed. So they had a guy named the Iron Sheik, who was Cosgrove Lasseri. He was the real bodyguard of the Shah of Iran. And he wrestled in the Pan Am Games, a real shooter, a real wrestler, not like me. He was a real wrestler. And so Vern tried to give him $100,000 to break my leg that night in the Garden. I didn't know that was happening. So all of a sudden, we get to Madison Square Garden, and it was like the perfect storm. It was the Iron Sheik, and at the time there were 444 American hostages being held by Iran. And I was coming in as like this American hero. So when I hit that Eye of the Tiger music, bro, the Garden exploded, and it just changed the business forever. Because when I went back to wrestle the Iron Sheik, they didn't play music, they didn't sell merchandise, which I had been doing in Minnesota, and the whole game changed, and it was just a magical night, winning that belt and stuff. It was just amazing.
Is that when the entrance music kind of started with that, or had it kind of gone on before that?
No, it hadn't. Well, I was playing in Minnesota, and no one else was. I was playing the Eye of the Tiger, which Scotty Brothers had publishing on. And as soon as I started playing it, they shut me down, wouldn't let me use it anymore. But I did play it for a while in Minnesota, unnoticed. But as soon as I went to the Garden, they noticed. But when I went to the Garden, I asked Vince about playing music. He goes, no, we don't play music here. So there was some other stuff that happened that day, which I guess I should tell you about. Right before, the match started, Vince McMahon Sr. and Vince McMahon Jr. were there. And the guy that had gotten beat the month before by the Iron Sheik, when the Sheik won the belt, Bob Backlund, came up. And Vince Sr. was looking down at me over his glasses, clicking the quarters like he always did. He goes, well, Terry, I think we're going to postpone this title switch for about 6 months and, go ahead and, get back with Bob for a while. So I said, well, guys, that's fine with me, but I'm going to go ahead and do the right thing tonight. I'm going to put the Iron Sheik over. He can beat me 1, 2, 3. But then I'm going back to Minnesota, and I'm going to rebuild that huge bridge that I burned down and beg for forgiveness. So I went to my dressing room and was drinking my normal couple beers before I go out and wrestle. And Vince Jr. came in and goes, oh, no, I talked to the old man. We're going back to the original plan. So that was the kink in the works that almost ruined that night. But, the Iron Sheik decided to do business with me. He didn't break my leg because he could have. And I wouldn't even know what was going on, because he would have done it very maliciously. But he decided to do business instead. And that was a crazy night in the Garden.
My name is Glenn Story. I'm the founder and CEO of Patriot Mobile. And then we have 4 principles. First Amendment, Second Amendment, right to life, military and first responders. If you have a place to go put your money, you always want to put it with somebody that's like-minded. Of course. I think that's the beauty of Patriot Mobile. We're a conservative alternative.
Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. Go to patriotmobile.com/smalltown to get a free month of service when you use the offer code SMALLTOWN or call 972-PATRIOT.
You know what goes great with small town stories?
Original Glory, America's beer right here.
You know, I've been drinking this every songwriting session today.
Man, that clean, crisp taste reminds me of summer nights on the back porch after a fresh mowed lawn.
And they're just not making great beer. They're investing in America's small towns.
Well, it's just like us. They believe in bringing communities together.
Not only do they invest in communities, but a portion of each sale goes to the veterans and the first responders and all the heroes that protect us.
For a limited time, you can become a member of the OG fam and invest in this beer at wefunder.com/original brands.
Join our Original Glory family and help ignite that Original Glory spirit.
I rewatched that match, and you know he dropped like a backbreaker on you and the camel clutch, which was his move. That backbreaker looked like it hurts. I mean, that there's no way that doesn't hurt.
Well, brother, let me tell you, now that I've had 10 back surgeries now, there's no way I could even get in that position. I can't even stand up straight, much less get bent over backwards like that. So it was crazy. But the cool thing about it was they told me no music. So I went to the sound guy. I said, "The hell with this. I had a Tiger cranking. I gave him $500. When that music started, that donk, 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 the roof of the place flew off. And, you know, then I told Vince, I said, man, I've been selling merchandise, T-shirts and headbands and hats and koozies and wristbands and making a ton of money doing it because nobody else is. And, man, Vince picked up on it real quick. And it just took off. And then everybody wanted entrance music. So Jimmy Hart sat up all night, most nights, writing entrance music for all the wrestlers.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because that again is where your rock career and music career, entertaining, took over, and everything kind of started going to the next level. And you realize, because you said yourself, which is crazy to me, that you didn't feel you were a gifted athlete when you were younger, even though you could play pro baseball and stuff like that. You thought that wasn't your gift, but your gifting was entertaining. When you found the entertainment piece of the wrestling, you said that's when things kind of clicked.
Yeah, it really did, you know, and it happened in Minnesota, you know, where I was in. That guy Vern Gagne was a collegiate wrestler, NCAA champion, and he was just one of these real hardcore old guys that would put submissions and hooks on you and make you scream, you know, going through his wrestling camp. And when I got there, I started working with his son a lot, and I noticed that when I body slammed somebody, that would get a reaction, but if I looked to the crowd and mugged the crowd, the reaction got a bigger response. So, ooh, I got this figured out now. So I started working to the crowd more than the wrestler in the ring. And it all came together, man, but it took a while. It took at least, you know, good grief, from end of 77 till 84 for me to really figure it out. And then I didn't have it figured out all the way. I really had it figured out by 85, 86, 87. You know, so it takes a while. You need that seat time like a NASCAR driver. You need to put that seat time in before you get good at anything.
Oh, I get it, man. It's like music. You know, we didn't just start playing and know how to entertain a crowd, man. You got to do it. You got to know how to do it.
Yeah, the wrestling industry is exactly like the songwriting industry, except I don't have to have 10 back surgeries over it.
We take a beating, just not that kind.
People ask me all the time, they say, well, do you ever pick up the guitar? Do you ever play around a little bit? And I very seldom do, because my fingers have been jammed and broken over 40 years of wrestling. I mean, it's, you know, and when I go to grab a guitar, it's almost like the arthritis is overwhelming. But I wonder what would have happened if I'd have played another 10 years, because I only put 10 good years in. You know, I played in junior high school bands and high school bands, but I really didn't put the time in like I should have. I've always have wondered if I would have played another 10 years, what could have happened, you know?
Are you still tinkering around with music at all?
Not really. I mean, you know, something special comes up, you know, and Jimmy Hart gets involved with something, I'll mess around, but really, not really. I mean, there's a couple situations where I shot in the wrestling business. You call it shooting an angle, you know. And I had pretty much gotten tired of being on the road 300 days a year, wrestling 350 or 360 times a year, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. You know, you get tired of flying 300 days a year. And I remember I was at an awards ceremony in the UK with Jerry Hall. And back then, that was Mick Jagger's old lady, and they needed a bass player, right? So I kept my mouth shut. We go to the award show, and when we come off stage, she goes, "Oh my gosh, Hulk, my kids are big fans. Could you please get them some merchandise?" I said, "Yes, I can." And I said, by the way, your boyfriend and any of that music they play, if they need a bass player, I would love to be in the band. So I got this box of merchandise together, put an audition tape in there and sent it, and I never heard a word back from him.
Oh my God.
Never heard a word.
Hey,
The same thing was.
I was about to
same
ask you.
thing
Go
happened.
ahead.
No, the same thing happened with Metallica.
That's what I was going to
When they
ask.
need, bro, and everybody says Hulk lied. He said he tried out for the Stones and Metallica, but he's a liar. Well, with Metallica, it was the same thing. I saw they needed a bass player. I put a tape together and sent it to him. Never heard a word. You know,
They didn't even
But
like
the bass
respond
player-
at all.
No, nothing. Hey, but the bass player they got is just bitching, man. That guy kills it.
Oh yeah, Julio, he's
But-
great.
Yeah.
But I would have quit wrestling in a heartbeat to be in either one of those bands.
Are you serious? You would have quit wrestling.
Oh hell yeah. Oh
A lot
hell
safer.
yeah. I guess. I don't know. Depends on who you're hanging with, brother.
I tell you what, though, it worked out because I remember watching you and you'd run. I mean, like Saturday night's main event, that kind of stuff. Like we would, wait up for you watching, to come on. It was such a feeling in the country too. You're such a American figure, and it was amazing. Like I still get pumped up. I was watching your old matches, and it still gets me going. Me and Aldine always talk about WrestleMania 3 and what that looked like back then. With what 80,000 people, and that had to be something. Though you and Andre the Giant, and it's still walking out and seeing those people that had to be quite a feeling.
Well, brother, first off, it was 94,000, okay? So I get straight. But the weird thing is about Saturday night's main event, if you look at the ratings now, the universe has so many choices, with all these TVs and Paramount Plus and Fox this and Fox, there's so many choices now for people to make with all this streaming stuff that it's not the same as it used to be because, I looked at the numbers for Saturday night main event here recently and I saw what the numbers were. But then when I wrestled Andre the Giant on Saturday night's main event, we had 33 million people watch that night. I mean, the numbers were insane, so it's a whole different world and a different universe. And so times they be a-changing.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Where do you see it? Where do you see the future of wrestling now, moving forward?
Well, I mean, it's stronger than it's ever been. I mean, it's just so powerful. It's this international juggernaut. I mean, it's like, they're always looking for an attraction, like The Rock or an Andre the Giant, or like a Roman Reigns. They're always looking for an attraction. But even if they can't find that one guy, the machine and the production is so big, you could actually have a wrestler be in the main event. If he gets hurt, you can actually replace him because the machine is so big and it works so well now that they've got it really figured out. And so it's just going to keep moving forward like a monster, and it's just eating everything up as it goes because it's getting bigger and more popular. And I never dreamed it would turn into this, but it's just amazing to watch it happen. I was really happy with the time that I, grew up wrestling, but boy, I'd sure love to wrestle during this era.
I'm thinking like country music singers need to get involved with the rest. I'm thinking Garth Brooks. I would love to see him in a ring. I would love to see Luke Combs in a ring. I mean, I'm just
maybe like Luke Combs and Justin Moore. Doing that.
Well, let me put it to you
something
this way,
fair.
brother. I'll put it to you this way. If Jay Leno can do it, anybody can do it.
That's a fact.
Wow, I
That's a
forgot about
fact.
that. I forgot about Jay
Maybe
Leno.
we can get Al Dean interested and get him in the ring.
I don't think he's going to do
Oh,
it.
I'd love to get his ass in there.
Oh man, get him and Luke Bryan in the ring together. That would be fantastic.
That's not a terrible idea.
I don't have one more in me, but I'd definitely step up for that one.
I don't think you'd have much of a problem.
So I really like the, I thought the McMahon Netflix doc was really good. I thought that was really cool. I mean,
It was so good.
it was peeled back the curtain, quite a bit.
Some of it.
Yeah,
some of it.
Yeah. But so when you were wrestling at the height in the 80s, did you have, I always wanted to ask you this, and hanging out, I meant to, and I always forgot to. Did you have like a favorite couple dudes that you would like, always enjoyed wrestling, or some that you didn't like, as far as like it was, I know how that goes competition wise too. So how do anything that you.
Well, back in the 80s, everybody was vying for that top spot. It wasn't like now everybody's got guaranteed contracts, and if you get hurt, you get paid. Back then, it was like if you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid. So everybody was, shooting for that top spot, and that happened to be the spot I had. So, the two guys that I really loved to wrestle with most were like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah.
He was a total pro. He was just so physical, and you knew you were in a war when you were in there with him. And the other one that I loved, even though it was pretty brutal, was working with Andre, because the money was so crazy.
Yeah.
So those were my two favorites. And like I said, after he beat on me for about 8 years, he started to like me. Then we became really good friends. But it took like 8 years to win his ass over.
That's what I thought. That's what I heard you talk about, Andre. And I imagine that was probably with a lot of those guys is, like Tully said, there's so much competition and everybody's vying for the spot. So I don't know how much you hung with those guys, but I heard you talk about Andre how you guys got close afterwards. Were any of the other guys that you ended up getting close with after the fact?
Well, a lot of guys I'd been friends with all along. The Nasty Boys. I was friends with British Beefcake for 45 years while we were wrestling. And, Haku, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was a good friend. And at the end, the one guy I finally became friends with, which we did not get along at all, was Roddy Piper, and I got real close at the end.
Oh, wow.
Right before he passed away, man. We were on the phone every day talking about scripture, and he wanted to understand about accepting Christ as a savior. Every day I was on him, brother, every day. So we became very close.
Hey, I know,
That's amazing.
Speaking of that, spirituality and your relationship with God is important to you. And I know that you were a Christian and been a Christian through your whole life, but I'm sure there's been like a reawakening of sorts. Like, when did that happen for you, and when did you really start that walk again with God?
Well, recently, I was saved when I was 14. I was playing guitar at a youth ranch. I was playing football, and a couple of football players say, hey, we go to this Christian youth ranch, and we sing every week. So I went with them. And then, they said, oh, he can play guitar. So the next week I brought my guitar, ended up playing guitar for all the songs and stuff. And I accepted Christ as my savior then, but it took a while for me to get it. But then, rock and roll music, wrestling, didn't follow the path for many years. And then with all the stuff that's happened in my life personally, all the crashing and burning and getting up and moving forward and starting over and crashing and burning again, and this mistake after that mistake, I just totally surrendered, man. And I said, you know what? I've fought harder than anybody. I've worked more longer hours than anybody. And I'm just so tired of being in the same empty back to zero space that I started going back to church every weekend and got baptized, totally surrendered. And now I just tell my big God about my little problems, and all these people that nip at my heels, brother, I just pray for them. I can't get involved with the drama because, I just let God fight those battles, man. I just let him take over, and no matter what type of drama comes at me, it's always something. I just sit back and try as best as I can. And I'm not always good at it. But I try as best as I can just to remain still.
That's amazing. I was going to add, when you said about baptizing, I baptized my brother, who's a lot bigger man than I am. And I was thinking about when you're getting baptized, did you have to have a couple guys in there bringing you up out of the water just because you're a big man, or did one guy do it? Did he say, help me out, brother? You got to help me out.
No, my pastor, Aaron, he got me in and out. And my wife, Sky, got baptized with all of my stepkids. And she's been a major influence in calming me down because I've got so much turbulence in me, from always being physical my whole life. About 8 o'clock at night, I start rumbling, because I'm used to getting in the ring about 10:30 or 11 and, just breaking this crazy sweat and have another man beating on me. And all of a sudden, okay, I'm okay, but I don't have that anymore. So I've got all this turbulence in me all the time. So I've got a gym in my house. I'll work out, or, I'll just go ahead and remain still and just go back to my faith. So it took a while to calm me down, but I still struggle with it every once in a while, but it's nothing like it used to be because, Sky, who I've been with about 3.5 years now, she's just been a godsend. She's just been amazing as far as outthinking me, out talking me down, helping me out. She's been my best friend, and so it's just amazing how things have turned out.
Well,
awesome.
You certainly left your mark. I mean, when we saw you in Tampa, Aldine, brought you out on stage to say hello to the crowd, and that place blew up. I got goosebumps talking about it. I felt like I was back in the 80s, so it's crazy. Like that's got to feel you accomplished something so great though. I mean, you left such a mark on their memories, which is really incredible. I mean, it was crazy that night. It was so fun seeing that,
It was unbelievable.
Sometimes I forget, and like, when I'm here on the beach, I take the only reason I got the rag on the bald head is because I knew I'd be on camera with you guys. But usually when I'm at home, I'm just walking around with the old bald head hanging out and stuff. And I go outside, and I forget the moment I walk outside. If the mailman sees me, he doesn't want Terry to go, hey, how you doing? He wants to go, hey, brother, what's up? Just give him a little something. And I keep forgetting that the moment people see me, they think Hulk Hogan instead of Terry. But what's been so great, we've been pumping that beer, Real American Beer, which I showed you guys. We've been traveling every week, kind of like being back on the road with the band. We've been traveling every week, going to different states, pumping this beer thing up. And the crazy thing, my wife said, you told me you were going to show me the world, but you didn't tell me it was going to be grocery store and gas stations, so one grocery store at a time. But, the craziest thing is I love meeting these people and shaking their hands and looking them in the eye and hearing their story, because everybody's got a Hulk Hogan story. And it really makes me understand how important that character was that I hit on, because I have people go, my father and I bonded watching you. I buried my brother with your shirt on, or I was on drugs and you saved me from being a drug addict, or, my father, you were my father growing up because I didn't have a dad. The stories are overwhelming. And I see all these special kids, because when I have a huge line of people, I make sure I get to all the special kids and handicapped kids first, and just how they respond and their reactions. And some of the stuff that's said to me by the parents, it's overwhelming. And I forget how powerful that whole character was on not only America, but the whole world, really, because I get the same reaction when I go overseas. So it's just amazing to hear the feedback now, but sometimes I forget. And as soon as I leave this house, I can't go to the mall or anything like that. But I mean, when I go to make an appearance or something, I get to be around people. The stories and how loyal they are and how nice the people are, it's just amazing.
It's the same thing with us. It's like we forget until we go. Like if I go to a Jason Aldean concert and I hear he cranks off into a song that I'm a part of, and I turn around and look at the crowd, and everybody's singing that song, and then people find out that you're a part of that song, and they tell them how it affected their life, and you forget. We take it for granted a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
It's the same thing with us.
It's a good point.
Yeah, it really does. But the inspiration that you've been and the walk that you're on now is so inspiring to us and to our listeners. It's awesome to hear your journey and where you've been and where you are now with your walk.
Well, it's not easy, because you can't be too light in the loafers in the spiritual world. You can't be too airy-fairy over here. And you can't be too dialed into this human incarnation. And you have to have each one foot in both places. But when stuff comes at me now, like negative stuff or people hitting me with stuff constantly, I'll go ahead and deal with it for a minute. Then I'll bracket it and I'll go back to center. So it's something that affects me, but I shake it a lot better now than I used to. And like I said, I just tell my big God about my little problems and pray for these people that are still talking and having to spread their stories or whatever their fiction is or whatever their reality is. It's not what mine is or was. So I just want to keep moving forward, and not look back. So it's amazing where I'm at now in my life. I didn't realize I was going to have to be 71 years old to figure it out, but it's just an amazing place to be right now. And so, yeah, it's just a great time.
There's a lot of life left, and you can move people in a different way now also, because the platform that you have, I was going to ask you, if you guys don't mind, about the ball peen hammer, because you'd said, and this scene, you had an art with it where you could hit a guy with it and hurt him, but not hurt him too bad, but it was like an art, like you could just, I don't know how you did that, but can you preach on that for a second? I know we just talked about Jesus, but if you go back to, hey, Jesus got mad too. I mean, he got mad too.
Yeah. Well, if you ever go back and watch the Rocky III thing again, Stallone was telling me if you're going to throw a punch, if the camera's right, you cross this way. I don't know how to explain it. Like if the camera's over here, you cross that way and pull through his chin so it looks like he took the punch, and he'll sell it that way. I told him, I'm going to throw a direct punch into your forehead. If you ever watch the Rocky III Thunderlips thing again, I set him up and I threw a punch from left field all the way from the ground, right between his eyes. And, after we got the shot and we got it done, I said, how was it? He goes, well, I felt it, but it was perfect. He looked back on the video assist. He goes, oh my God, I've never seen a punch thrown like that. I said, I've been practicing a long time. And it's the same thing like with the ball peen hammer, because when I went back to the WWE after working for Ted Turner and trying to put them out of business, for 10 years, I wasn't the most welcome guy in the dressing room. Let's put it that way. And so, I was going out to Chicago, and The Rock was going to come out and interrupt my speech and challenge me. And after he challenged me, he rock bottomed me. Then my NWO brothers came out, and we basically crucified him in the middle of the ring. I went out and dumped a toolbox out, and there was a ball peen hammer. And I said, I'm going to hit you wide open in the back of the head, but I'm not going to hurt you. So I gauged it, and I swung wide open. I caught him. And he goes, well, it was a little stiff. The Rock goes, it was a little stiff. I said, well, did you get hurt? He goes, no. I said, fine then. But then we put him in an ambulance and chained the ambulance up, and I got in a semi and ran the ambulance over a couple times. But we did it live to tape and cut the tape. We pulled him out of the ambulance, of course, before I ran it over a couple times. But when I was doing it every night, I got real good with timing and distance, and it's just an art form. You learn.
Yeah. Stallone, I think, still talks about that, how you were able to throw those punches and just stop at the right time. He always wanted the camera here and to cross through and not hit him, but him just. I said, bro, I can throw him straight in. You can have the camera right on you. They're not going to see any holes because I am going to make contact, but I will not hurt you. I won't hurt you. That's amazing.
Wow. Hey, so you were talking about, the film industry, and obviously, and you made your mark on that. From what I understand, you got offered the role in The Wrestler, which eventually went to Mickey Rourke, obviously, who did a great job. Is that true that you got offered that role? and you turned it down, right?
Well, it's kind of true, but I did say no. What happened, Jerry? What what happened was I'd already done a wrestling movie called No Holds Barred, which I hope you guys get to see it because it's just crazy. But it was like, it's a funny movie. But since I'd already done a movie about a wrestler, I did the first two movies New Line Cinema had, Mr. Nanny and Suburban Commando, when New Line Cinema was first starting. And then the Wolf of Wall Street guy, what was his name? Jordan Belfort.
Oh, okay.
No, Jordan Belfort. No, he gave me some money to make a couple movies. And then this wrestler script came through my agent, Peter Young. And he goes, the studio wants you to read this and see, how you feel about it. And I saw the wrestler, of course, and I read it, and I just couldn't visualize it because I usually picture every shot, in every camera position. I've been around the TV business so long, I try to picture everything in my head. Like, I'll read a script real fast. I can read like 110 pages in maybe an hour or so, but then I'll go back and read that 110 pages. It'll take me 2 days to block out every shot and think about it. And I just didn't get a hold of it. And plus, I didn't want to play a wrestler again, because I just figured it'd be the same lukewarm welcome I got with the last film I did as a wrestler. So I told Peter Young, my agent, I didn't want to do it. So I don't know if I would ever be offered the part, but I said I didn't want to do it until before that happened.
Yeah, and 10 grand's not a lot of money anyway.
Easy, brother.
It was 14. It was 14.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
14.
Hey, real quick, let's talk about Hogan's Hangout. Is karaoke night still rocking?
Yeah, I'm gonna get my head geared up for that here in a couple hours, and
That's what I was wondering if it was tonight.
Bro, this tonight it'll be wide open too.
We're gonna come down there to try that
Oh,
bus.
definitely.
You guys can come in. I hope you come in and drink.
Oh, you kidding me? Don't stop
I
believing.
I told Jason, I said, what if you come in and sing karaoke and you don't win?
He'll stay there until he does. So
Good point.
Yeah. I tell you what, I had one of my guys come in from the church, and he's a really good singer. And he sang his butt off, but then, man, we had some people come in that just were blowing smoke, man. And I had to put the belt on those people, and man, I don't know, I think I still got heat for that one. But
What's the prize for first place?
well, we give away title belts, and we give away title belts to the best female and best male singer. And then every quarter we have the quarterfinals where we give cash away. But then at the end of the year, we have the ultimate championship, and we give like 10 grand away to the winner, and second place gets whatever, and third place gets whatever. But for around here and locally, it's a lot of money, But I get guys flying in from Jersey and Vegas and all over the place to come down here and sing. It's kind of like turned into like the Madison Square Garden of karaoke.
What do you think?
We are so there. That's going to be.
We gotta go.
We have to go. Well, originally the whole plan was to come down with try that in a small town bus that Wade hasn't got us yet to do this in person, But we're such fans. I mean, and our us and Jason, you coming out and hanging out with us, we really appreciate it because for us it's like such a part of our growing up and those memories and having you hang out with us. We just, I'm sure you get sick of telling us the same stories again, but for us, it never gets old.
No.
It never gets old. Hanging out with you, man.
No, it's a lot of fun, brother. It's a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. No pressure. It's really cool.
Well, like Tully said, it's just been such a pleasure and an honor. And there's, you could have been doing a lot of things today, and that you've got to share stories and talk with us. We're very appreciative of you. Keep walking the walk, brother.
Yes.
We love you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
You guys
Thanks,
are awesome. Thank you, guys.
Woo.
Thank you, brothers.
Have a great night tonight,
Brother, that was amazing.
I got to tell you, I know I'm guilty of it, but whenever we see him, even tonight, I go right back to being 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I have to know about the wrestling stuff. And he's answered the questions a million times.
I thought the music stuff was incredible.
Yeah.
I had never heard.
Well,
that
no one even knows that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about all that stuff. I mean, he's like addicted to the music scene.
It's a legit passion. I'm so glad, and I wanted to ask him, but he brought it up on his own. And I thought it was amazing because I had heard the story of him trying to get the Stones gig, the Rolling Stones gig,
Metallica,
and then the Metallica gig. Like
They sent tapes.
he sent the tapes,
It's amazing.
and they didn't even respond to him. How do you not respond to Hulk Hogan? Like at least a courtesy, like brother, like that's awesome. Probably go this direction.
How badass would he look on stage with Metallica?
Amazing. How do they not do 30 shows with Hulk Hogan?
At least let him come out.
Well,
And you know what's funny about that is like Robert Trujillo, the bass player they have now.
Yeah.
He's great, but you can never hear the bass. So may as well have Hulk Hogan up there doing it.
Right.
You're not going to put bass in any of the mixes or live shows.
Yeah.
So just have Hulk up there. Then, I mean, why not?
when you think about you talked about the fretless bass, and I was thinking, was he playing fretless because he was so strong and he rubbed the frets off? I mean, how did that work? You know, was he doing that? And then also, he didn't talk about this, but he spent the 20 years in Japan, like 6 months. You know, he was there. So, and he talked about it on other podcasts, and he goes, "Yeah, it was great." He goes, "I mean, I was single. I was over in Japan," and but he learned there was one of the rock stars over there had long blonde hair, so he joined a band over there. You know, was in a legit band.
Yeah.
Doing the wrestling stuff, and over there he was freaking Elvis in Japan
I saw
for the
that as
longest
well.
time, which was really cool.
And I mean, he
So he used the music, you know, and even said when he got in the ring, he used the cadence. You know, it's like when we're talking about the entertainment part of it. I mean, he took all the music stuff and the entertaining and made, you know,
Oh, it was cool to hear all that.
history.
It was
I mean, it's
unbelievable.
huge.
I mean, he is a global superstar, like you mentioned. I mean, he was Elvis over there.
yeah.
I mean, even here too, but I
Yeah.
mean, just across
And,
the
and,
country.
and a great American, which we didn't really get a chance to touch on. We
Right.
could have went on forever with Hulk, but like, you know, at that time when he came in, I remember, I mean, so patriotic. He come running through the crowd with waving the flag. Mm-hmm. You know, he's fighting the Iron Sheik, which is anti-American.
great.
You know what I'm saying? And then now he's still fighting the good fight today. You know, so he's a great guy. He'll come out and hang out with us, and I'll look over him like. And we've been around a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
I'll still see Hulk Hogan sitting over there. I'm like, wow.
Hulk Hogan, you know, Tully has his bass in the dressing room. You know, we all kind of warm up or whatever. And Hulk grabs it and he's playing your bass, and it's like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tully would have slapped me if I'd have done that.
No, you get to grab.
You go
can,
in the dressing room and grab Tully's bass, get smacked.
You can grab it.
Oh,
Any of you guys can grab it.
Yeah, you have carte
My bass
blanche.
side is.
You have carte blanche.
No,
Carte blanche.
I just like
French.
how hard, you know, the story for him, even how big he is physically. And like you see him now, and we've known him forever. Like he was a legend first time I ever saw him. But to hear, you know, like all of us, you know, anybody in sports, entertainment, and whatever, it's just not easy. And he went through all that stuff, sleeping in vans, just like you had, you know, artists sleeping in the vans and cars on Broadway and stuff, and making nothing. Like you talked about, you playing sets 8 hours and making $20 or whatever. And then he quit several times, you know, pretty amazing.
Well, you don't realize
he just
people-
sticks with it.
The wrestling life is really tough. I mean, they wrestle 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, twice on some days, and then you get in your car and you drive another 5-6 hours to where you're going. Pretty brutal. You know, they don't stop.
No, and in comparison to today's wrestling, where it's not as much actual physical contact, those guys were landing blows, and it took a toll on him. Obviously, he said he's had like 30 surgeries, 10-pack surgeries.
Yeah, he's in the 30s, and it was funny because not funny, but in doing the research because when I was a kid, I mean I watched it, but I didn't follow it because you had a lot of people say, oh, that's fake and all that stuff, and I don't want to get into that. You're talking to Hulk Hogan, you know, but you know, he was even saying in other podcasts and interviews that in the 70s, that if you kick somebody with the laces on those boots, they wanted to see the laces on their face and on their chest and all that. If you hit them, they wanted to see bruising and bleeding, stuff like that. And so it was a brutal game, you know, back then. Man, that was a man's man type of thing. And now, not that, I mean, it's not easy now. It's entertainment, but the things they do, you can't do that painless. Painless.
Right.
I mean, if they threw me around like that, you'd be broken a million.
He didn't talk about
places,
it tonight. I mean, he didn't talk. Or hope we talk about it. Edit. Crap. Sorry.
Cut.
Is this post wrap up or pre?
No, it's post. Go ahead.
Okay. We didn't talk about it tonight, but he picked up Andre the Giant and body slammed.
Right. That had to be one of the back surgeries for sure.
Well, no, wait. I believe, if I'm not wrong, when he did that, he told me when he was in Tampa, he said he ripped the bicep right off the bone when he was doing it. Or something in his shoulder, something got ripped off the bone, and he kept going. But he picked up Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
No, it's like picking up a walrus.
It's incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, what a...
Is
I've got a cramp in my pinky.
My guitar's heavy.
I'm just
my
saying.
case is heavy.
putting on my 12-pound guitar.
Oh, my traps are so tight.
Yeah, very, yeah.
So funny. We want to thank everybody. It's like, as always, we say, if you're on YouTube, leave us a comment, leave us a review. That really helps us. So please keep doing that. Download. What else we got? We got to thank our sponsors, Original Glory, Patriot Mobile, eSpaces.
Yes.
That was really cool for us tonight, right?
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan,
Yeah,
man.
still processing it.
I know it. I can't believe we got him.
So fun. And like I think Tully was saying, we're going to go down to the Hogan's Hangout. We're going to get on the karaoke bar.
We have
Neil,
to
what are you
do
going to
That'd
sing?
be fun.
I remember you. What are you talking about? I remember you. I'm doing it.
All right.
I think I'm just going to watch you guys.
That's a good one.
I'm going to support you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
From the Patriot Mobile Studios, this is the Try That in a Small Town podcast. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Subscribe, share, rate, and check out our merch at trythatinasmalltown.com.